Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Nice to see you all. So, today we will embark on our glorious journey through Karma Yoga. And before we begin, I'll say the prayers to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalake Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः
Hare Krishna. So, today we will cover slokas 3.3 to 3.6. We have shared it in the group already, so I will play the slokas now.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Lokesmin Dvividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nakha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam Na Karmanam Anarambha Naishkarmyam Purushoshnute Na Cha Sanyasanadeva Siddhim Samadhigacchati Na hi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishthatya karma krita कार्यते ह्यवशः कर्म सर्वः प्रकृतिजै गुणैः कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य य आस्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थान् विमूढात्मा मिथ्याचारः स उच्यते.
Hare Krishna. 4 very powerful slokas that get us started on the path to Karma Yoga. So, if you recollect where we left the last session, we left our friend Arjuna, and he had some questions. He had some confusions. So that's where we begin today. So let's try to recollect and let's try to hear exactly what was the confusion. What did Arjuna ask Krishna? Because why we are trying to revisit and pay attention to Arjuna's question. Usually we are paying attention to Krishna's answer, but here we are saying let us pay attention to Arjuna's question, because his question kind of exposes how the human mind works. It exposes how our mind works, how we all react. So it's very important. Because here he says, "Oh Janardana, if you consider knowledge superior to action, then why do you ask me to wage this terrible war? I am bewildered by your contradictory advice. Please tell me decisively the one path that I should take to attain the highest good." So Arjuna somehow thinks that Krishna is giving contradictory advice. Does anybody here think like that? Do you? Okay, I'm very happy. At least the students who have already studied Bhagavad Gita, they are all saying no, no contradictions. Beautiful. Okay. See what Arjuna is doing. Let us notice what he is doing here. He is taking the teaching which Krishna gave to transform his relationship with action. That was the teaching Krishna gave. But then Arjuna is turning it into an argument against action altogether. So because Krishna praised buddhi, Krishna praised intelligence, discernment, viveka, and Krishna spoke about acting without attachment. Now Arjuna hears this, but then Arjuna is arriving at his own conclusion. So he's saying if wisdom is higher, then action must be lower. See his reasoning. If detachment is praised, then the best option for me is to detach completely. And what is his idea of detachment? Just leave everything. Let me just run away. Let me go somewhere. I don't want to do anything. That is detachment according to him. See the words that Arjuna is using. He's saying, Tadekam vada nischetya yena shreyo ham apnuyam. He's using the word shreyas. Shreya is not a casual usage, because Shreya, we all know, Shreya is that which is ultimately beneficial. Arjuna is not asking for spiritual buffet. He's not saying, give me 15 things and let me choose. He is asking for a simple, single, clear direction that he thinks will help him in his situation. See, but then we may all wonder, at least some of us who have paid a lot of attention to the teachings of Krishna so far. By the way, I want to welcome all the people. Some people have joined later. Welcome. But I think more and more people are feeling very shy. Please participate more. Open up. Okay. So, but then a lot of us may wonder, because this is what happens. Otherwise, even we will be like Arjuna. The entire Bhagavad Gita, you will be listening passive mode. And then later on, somebody will talk about a particular shloka, and you're like, oh, is this in Bhagavad Gita? Because because this is not like a Eric Clapton song, right? That you just listen when you're driving or when you're cooking. This will make sense only if we use all our faculties to focus and internalize. That is the goal for us here. So we will all wonder that, but didn't Krishna explain all of this crystal clear in the second chapter? In second chapter, Krishna spoke 62 verses. He already spoke about the nature of the self. He spoke about equanimity. He spoke about sthita pragya. He spoke about how to do action without attachment. All of this he already said. And yet here is Arjuna feeling confused, feeling disturbed. Do you think this confusion is because Krishna was not effective as a teacher? Okay, nobody raised their hands, so I'm happy. Do you think this confusion was because Arjuna was not an effective student? Now people are thinking, but still nobody really is saying. Okay. So there is no problem with the teacher. There is no problem with the student. Then where is the confusion coming from? Why is there the confusion? This is where many acharyas will go on to explain that this is another lila, another divine play, which has a practical purpose. Because Krishna himself says, if you go to fourth chapter later on, we will see where Krishna will say that Janma karma cha me divyam. He will say that my birth, my actions, they are divine, they are transcendental. So this is also another lila of Krishna, where this kind of confusion that Arjuna has, it creates a space for Krishna to address some very important human predicaments, some human problems. What would have happened if Arjuna did not have any confusion at all? Probably the Bhagavad Gita would have been much shorter, isn't it? So the Bhagavad Gita became 18 chapters because of Arjuna's questions and his apparent confusion. So it's all a part of a Leela. But then we just said that it's a Leela, but Leela has a purpose. What is the purpose? The purpose is Krishna wants to address our confusions. He wants to address the confusion of all of humanity. Because Krishna knows that this is the kind of confusion that every human invariably has. Why is this so? See, you have to know. I will say some statements and you should introspect. Have you ever felt that way? And if you're honest, somewhere in your life at some stage you may have felt that way. First, you hear somebody saying you have to be detached, and then you draw a conclusion. That means I have to stop caring. Or you hear someone say that everything happens as per Krishna's will. In Hindi, it's a very popular saying, "Unki marji ke bina patta bhi nahi hilta hai." But then you make an assumption. That means why should I do anything? Or you hear somebody saying knowledge is higher. And then you make a assumption, oh, that means everything else should be lower. No. Or, very important, somebody says renunciation, then the image comes to mind. Sannyasi, Sadhu Baba, with a bowl in the hand, where I have to leave everything, I have to go somewhere in a cave, right? Or a forest. So if you see, you will see that it's all a confusion, but this confusion doesn't imply that the teaching is wrong. You agree? The teaching is not wrong. But the mind, what is happening is the mind is not able to accommodate those teachings. Why? That is the problem, human problem, which is universal. The problem is the mind will always try to stick to what feels comfortable, what feels familiar. The mind wants to limit itself to that. Anything, any teaching or any message or anything that seems to question that, shake that up. The first reaction will always be resistance. The first reaction will always be dismissal. And that is why Arjuna's response and confusion here is very human. Because Arjuna also had the same issue, the same challenge. He had his own comfortable house in his mind. And Krishna is coming and he's trying to shake it up. And so the first reaction is resistance. Now Arjuna is showing some resistance and he's almost dismissing a few things. See, this is not just when we say Arjuna, Krishna, then all of this sounds like, oh, it happened thousands of years ago and all of that, But these things have happened throughout humanity. Like, for example, one of the most popular historical events that a lot of us read in our school books is that of the great scientist Copernicus, somewhere in the 15th century. In those days, there was a strong belief that Earth was the center of the universe and everything revolved around Earth. And this view was supported not just by religious people, it was also supported by the scientists of those days. And then Copernicus comes and he has a totally contradictory view. He comes and says, Earth is not the center of the universe, and it's not that everybody rotates around us. We are also rotating. And he published a book sometime in the 1543 or something. He published a book. But the reaction was outrage. How dare he can hearsay? So much so that the Catholic Church banned his book. So they had a list of books which were all prohibited, and this book was in that list, and it was in that list for at least another century or two more centuries. That is the first reaction from people, because they were comfortable with a particular view, a familiar view, and somebody comes and shakes it up. The first reaction is outrage, rejection, resistance. Later on, I think another century later, another great scientist comes. His name is Galileo. And he's supporting Copernicus, the views of Copernicus. And he's saying, I think Copernicus is right. Because even my observation is supporting that view. And what they do? Again, outrage. And history says that they made Galileo publicly apologize. And publicly say that I take back what I said. So they make him deny whatever he said in the public. But there is a legend that says that after publicly, taking it back, this is observation. Some people say this is what Galileo said after that. He whispered. He said, "Epur si muove," which means, and yet it moves. So he's saying that, okay, I will take back what I said. Okay, the earth is not moving. The earth is the center of everything. Okay. And then he whispers, but yet the earth moves. What that means is this line is almost a spiritual teaching in itself. That one sentence that he said, because truth does not require anybody's permission. Truth is always truth. Reality is not going to adjust itself to suit your ego. Gravity will always be gravity. Somebody may come and say the idea of gravity is total nonsense. Doesn't matter. If they jump from a building, they will fall. Gravity will remain gravity. So the irony is Copernicus was only describing reality the way it was, but the resistance came not because Copernicus was wrong. The resistance came because the same thing we just discussed. It was questioning people's comfort zone. It was shaking people. It was forcing people to get out of their comfort zone. And that has always been a problem. Like some of you here, you all hold senior positions, leadership positions. And I'm sure you have studied this in your leadership courses. In leadership, they teach one thing. They say that although change is a vital, critical part of any growth in any organization, change has to be introduced gradually, because abrupt change never goes well. That is human psychology. Change has to be always gradual. So Arjuna is in the same situation. His old model mind is being shaken by Krishna. Krishna is saying, no, you are not the center of the universe. And Arjuna finds it very uncomfortable. So Arjuna is doing what humans do. He is now asking for the teaching to fit his model. He wants Krishna to give him a teaching that will fit his comfort zone, that will fit within his mental model. Very smart of Arjuna. See, another great scientist, Einstein. Einstein you all may know because he's more recent than Copernicus. And Einstein made a very spiritual observation. He said that a problem cannot be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. It's a very simple, very beautiful, profound statement. It's about consciousness, because the lens through which we perceive reality. Arjuna's confusion, because he is trying to view Krishna's teachings through the same lens or the same level of consciousness that landed him up in this kind of mental confusion to start with. Why was Arjuna facing this kind of mental dilemmas and confusions and why? Doubts. That was his mind. His mind kind of took him there. Now he is using the same views to somehow solve it. And you see the problem, you see the fallacy. It cannot be solved. So Krishna's teaching, it is Krishna is telling Arjuna that you need to first shift your mental framework. You have to elevate your level of consciousness. And that cannot happen just by accumulating knowledge. This is why I many times, at least people in my close circle, I many times discourage them from just going on, hundreds of YouTubes and, millions of websites and this Guruji said this, that Prabhuji said that. It's all okay, but just that accumulation of knowledge is not going to really help us evolve. Sometimes it only works against us, because the more we hear, the more the confusions come. And the confusions are coming not because the teachings are necessarily contradicting themselves. That's because our lens is not yet clear. See, it is like you are buying a very expensive, beautiful camera. And you are trying to take a beautiful picture, but your lens has a lot of oil and dust in the front. So the picture is not coming out well. Now you are saying, I want to replace this camera. You buy a more expensive camera. You buy a camera from another company. But you are all the time using the same lens cover. We call it the UV filter. You are so fond of your UV filter that is the same dirty filter you are putting in front of every lens. So what's going to happen? Now you are going to draw incorrect conclusions. You're going to say, oh, maybe that camera doesn't work well. Maybe this company doesn't make good cameras. Maybe my, exposure is wrong. Maybe my technique is wrong. But see, the problem was where? That is the same thing that Krishna is telling Arjuna, that first you have to change. You have to change how you perceive things. This is why they say that people who suffer from anxiety especially, they will always tell you that I am just not able to come out of anxiety. And they are right. Why they are not able to come out of anxiety? Because they are trying to use the same beliefs and the same mental framework that put them into anxiety. They are trying to use that same thing to get out of anxiety. How will it work? That is what Einstein said. The same level of consciousness won't work. Now they need help somebody has to help them. They need to raise their level of consciousness and change some of their mental models. Only then solution will happen. So this is Arjuna's inner war. He is feeling that he wants Shreya. He wants Shreyas. But what does his mind want? The mind wants Preya. There is a conflict there. The conflict is not in Krishna's teachings. The conflict is within Arjuna's mind itself. Because he thinks he wants liberation, but what he's actually looking for is relief. Relief. Okay, just let me go. I don't want to do this. It's difficult. So he wants relief, but he thinks he's actually going towards liberation. He wants the truth. He thinks. But what he actually wants is comfort. Truth, Shreya. Comfort, Preya. Liberation, Shreya. Relief, Preya. Relief means something is going on in your body. Like we have some doctor here, they can affirm this. Something is wrong with your body, so you are getting some, rashes in your hand, let us say, which are bleeding and which are painful. And then you say, okay, I'll go put a band-aid on top of it. Next day you will say, okay, I'll put some oil on top of it. Next day you'll put some cooling cream on top of it. That is all relief. Okay, there's nothing wrong. Once in a while get some. But is that Shreya? Shreya means you need to figure out why it is happening and find a cure. Maybe it is because you are eating something you are not supposed to eat. Maybe you are drinking something you're not supposed to drink, and so on and so forth, right? So that's what is going on here. The conflict is there. He thinks he wants a cure, but he's spending all his time finding relief. So in our daily life also we do that. So what are examples of Preya? Preya means avoidance, delay, procrastination. I will do tomorrow. That's the biggest luxury, right? You have to do something. I will do tomorrow. The biggest luxury is that. I can see people feeling so happy when they say, I will do this after New Year. This is my favorite, absolute favorite, whether it be going to gym, whether it be losing weight, whether it be doing something good or whatever. It's like smokers especially, they will always want to have that last puff on December 31st. Then I will leave. That procrastination, such a huge luxury, but that is Preya. So if you are doing any of that, you should know you are aligning with Preya. Whereas what does Shreya look like? Responsibility, honesty, discipline, surrender. I'm giving some examples. So now let us see, where is this grace in this confusion? What kind of Leela is this? Because a lot of acharyas will go on to say that this confusion of Arjuna is paradoxically a form of grace. Because it is honest. There is no pretension. And it makes him admit that he doesn't understand. And that kind of honesty creates the opening through which real wisdom can enter. See, a lot of us, how we behave in college, the professor is teaching something, and the moment you catch them looking at you, you start nodding. Yes, I understood. But secretly we are looking at, the moment the professor looks the other way, we look at our watch. When will this lecture end? I have more interesting things to do. So if Arjuna had done the same thing, Krishna went to such great lengths to explain the entire Sankhya Yoga. He gave the gist of karma and everything. What if Arjuna was just nodding, okay, I understood everything. If that had happened, then the Bhagavad Gita would have ended in chapter 2. That's it. That's Bhagavad Gita. Right? But he was honest. He at least was honest to acknowledge that this didn't make sense, that didn't make sense. But if what, and that's what helped humanity derive that wisdom from Sri Krishna, correct? So that is why they say that this confusion is a grace in itself. So it's a lesson for all of us. In fact, there is a very popular study. I don't remember the name of this organization that conducted this study, but it's a psychological study that happened, which said that if we are reading anything new, and let us say we are going through the first chapter, and let us say we have some kind of a doubt in the first page of the first chapter. They say that if we don't clarify that doubt, the rest of the book will not make sense to us. It's a study in psychology actually, which says that the earlier we clear our doubts and confusions, the more effective our knowledge gathering after that point onwards. Otherwise, after that, there is always going to be an inner resistance. We don't realize it, it's very subtle. So, the message is for all of us. If there is, that is why after every session, I always give some time. I say, do you have questions? Because it's very important that we have the humility to open up and ask the questions the right way, but make sure that we understand everything before we go to the next chapter or the next set of shlokas. So, what is Krishna's response? Now we have seen Arjuna's question. I think we have understood his question well. Now let us see how our master teacher, the Jagat Guru, how is he now responding to that? And he's starting with 3.3. And you can see that in 3.3, you can see Krishna's compassion. And it's very beautiful because there Krishna is being compassionate also and he's being strategic also. Because Arjuna is demanding just one single path. He wants one taviz, one secret mantra, one something, that will help him totally, succeed. And as if enlightenment was like, okay, there are these 4 paths, tell me which path I should take, and I will reject all the other paths, and that way I will succeed. That's how Arjuna is looking at it, very binary, right? But Krishna is not indulging Arjuna in that. Instead, he is explaining that human beings, everybody, we are wired differently. What does it mean we are wired differently? It means that the same truth we all approach differently. We all reach the same truth differently. See how he starts. He addresses Arjuna as Anaga. Anybody knows what Anaga means in Sanskrit? No. Incidentally, we are going to meet one satsang member tomorrow whose name is Anaga. I don't know if she also knows the meaning though. So, Anaga here means sinless one. Saying Arjuna, he's calling Arjuna as, oh Arjuna, oh sinless one. Is Krishna trying to flatter Arjuna? Is that what you think he's doing here? No. Krishna here is reassuring Arjuna. This is the beauty of real leadership. Real leadership is where you know how to counsel without condemning. Beautiful. That's what Krishna did earlier also, where he said, oh Arjuna, this kind of behavior does not suit you. There he's elevating Arjuna. The moment you tell somebody or somebody tells you, this kind of behavior doesn't suit you, that means automatically they are putting you above that. And you feel inspired to raise above. That's what Krishna is doing here. And then Krishna says, there are 2 established paths I have spoken about which lead towards that highest truth. One is Jnana Nishta, which is the orientation of knowledge and discernment. The other, he says, is Karma Nishta. Karma Nishta is the orientation of action and duty. Again, this is not like a division. This is not a division of superior or inferior. It is acknowledgement that we all have different swabhavas. So the teachings are aligned with our swabhava. See, like if we introspect, if you all can spend just 5 seconds to introspect, some of us are naturally inclined to ask questions like, what is real, what's not real, who am I, what is that absolute truth? Whereas some of us, we are inclined to ask questions like, what needs to be done, what is my duty, what is the right action? These are 2 different swabhavas. How many of you naturally feel inclined to ask, what should be done? What is my duty? What is the right action? How many of you feel like that naturally? Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, beautiful. We have many people. So, your swabhava is a swabhava of a karmi. You are all aligned with karma nishta. The others, they are all jnanis. Their swabhava is that. So they are aligned with, the jnana marga. But should we say you are better or they are better? No. These are 2 kinds of swabhavas. That's all Krishna is saying. So, the method that the jnanis will use will not suit the karmis, the methods that the karmi uses will not suit the jnani. So you cannot force fit. So if your natural sabhava is one way, nobody should try to force fit a teaching which is aligning with some other sabhava. That is a very problematic thing. Like for example, if you had a free weekend, no obligations, no deadlines, ask yourself, what does your mind naturally want to do? Some of you are smiling, you are saying, oh, naturally I want to just sleep, but so so what does your mind naturally want to do? Be mindful of that. That will explain what your sabhava is. That will give you an indication of what your natural sabhava is. If you feel like, oh, maybe I will spend some time in silence, I'm going to spend some time in introspection, meditation, or you're like, oh, I don't have anything really pressing to do, okay, then maybe I'll go here, I'll go there, I'll do this, I'll do that. Ask yourself, which of this is your natural thing? And that is what Krishna is calling as swabhava. So spirituality cannot be what Arjuna is expecting. Spirituality cannot be like one mantra which everybody has to be forced to follow. And that is Krishna's path. So for example, if somebody is a karmi, they are always action, they want to do. And if you force them to follow the path of a jnani, if you force them to sit for 4 hours introspecting and meditating, they're going to become extremely restless. At least in IT, we identify such people. This is a joke in our circle all the time. Some of us who read a little bit of spiritual things, we will immediately say, oh, this guy is a karmi. Because, some people, if you ask them a question, they have to snatch your laptop from you before they can, tell you. They cannot just say, oh, use that menu. They won't just say, go, they have to take the laptop in their hands. They have to, click the button for you. And we will say, here comes a karmi, action oriented. Jokes apart, here comes a twist that Arjuna was not expecting, because Krishna refuses to fall into the trap that Arjuna is, creating. Krishna says, you are asking me, you are telling me pick one, and I am telling you there is no one. I am not going to tell you that pick one and reject other. In fact, Krishna says, if you try to separate them like this, you will suffer. Why? Because jnana without action becomes dry and pointless. All theory. Like, all the million attributes of honey, but you have never tasted it. What is the point? And action without jnana, it becomes blind and it can be dangerous. Srila Prabhupada, he gives a very beautiful analogy. It's something very simple. He explains what even a child can understand. He says that jnana is like knowing where the roots of the tree are. And he says karma is like actually watering those roots. He's saying, if you have jnana but no karma, then you will know that the roots are here, it needs to be watered, but there is no action, so the tree is going to dry out. And vice versa. You are a karmi, but you have no idea where to put the water. You are trying to water the leaves. That's not going to help the tree either. So there has to be an integration. You have to have jnana, and with that jnana, you have to also have rightful action. It makes sense, right? So jnana and action have to go together. This is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. He's saying, don't try to separate them. Because if you try to separate them like this, black or white, then you will suffer. This is what Krishna called as Buddhi Yoga. Was that your understanding so far? That this is what is Buddhi Yoga? No. Because we all listen to it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You can listen to it 4 more times, but it will still not make sense. That is the depth it carries. So we have to listen again and again and again. And the more we listen with the open mind and the more we are interactive, that is when you have to be like Arjuna. If you are like Arjuna, then Krishna's teachings will make complete sense. If you are like Dhritarashtra, then you will also hear the entire Mahabharata, but it's going to make no sense. So, okay. So that is Buddhi Yoga, which is awakened intelligence, which is meant to transform our life. It is not meant to run away from our life. So, what that also means, if I have to explain using a simple analogy, is when we say I am becoming more spiritual, how do you test it? There needs to be a test. That test, Krishna will say, cannot happen in your prayer room. That test has to happen when you are in traffic. That test has to happen when you are facing deadlines. That test has to happen when you are facing conflicts. That test has to happen when you are facing temptations. The moment your plan fails, your ego will want to blame somebody. But that is your test, and that you can pass only if you are living your life. If you are running away to a mountaintop, there is no traffic, there is no deadline. But does that mean you are past? That is the whole point here. So that is why Krishna beautifully says, you need to be in the world. Now comes the next very, very kind of a enlightening fact that Krishna says. Okay, let me first ask you a question and then I will derive at the message. Has any of you had any relationship issues where you think there was a difficult discussion that you had to have, a very hard, tough or difficult discussion that you had to have, but you avoided it? You avoided it because you were like, let me avoid confrontation, let me avoid a conflict so that maybe there can be peace. Okay, some of you are nodding your heads. Anybody wants to speak up? Deepa, you want to say something?
Huh. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm one of those who'd want to maintain peace and harmony. And as a result of which you decide like, okay, let me take a step back and, or probably run away from the city because I don't know how to handle it also. So there,
I really,
there,
I
yeah,
appreciate this honesty. Really, it takes a lot of courage to open up. But let me ask you a very simple question. I'm not going to go into details. I don't want you to divulge any names or anything. But tell me, there was a relationship issue. You thought there needs to be a tough conversation, a difficult conversation,
yeah,
but you avoided it because you said, let me not have confrontation. Maybe there will be some peace.
yeah.
My honest answer for a question is, did the relationship actually improve because of that?
No,
No. Thank you so much. I didn't want this to be theoretical. So, what you have said actually is very practical. So, now we have evidence. That is exactly what Krishna is going to say. So, what is the message here? This is the golden rule of karma, where Krishna will tell Arjuna that no action is not equal to no reaction. Just because you thought you avoided a confrontation doesn't mean that you are going to get a positive outcome. So, not doing something does not mean that there will be no reaction. The reaction will still be there. So, you not doing something is also generating a karmic account. And this is a very, very profound message. So, for example, let us take another example where you are in a combined family and there is a soft spoken, maybe vulnerable person in the family that somebody else is trying to, boss over and insult and harass and all of that. Now you take the stance that let me not get into this, let me not, interfere because it may just create conflict. So you choose not to do something, but you could have done something. Now, what is the outcome? That person continues to get harassed. Now, some of that karma is going to come to you. It is not just the karma for the person who is harassing. So, Napoleon very beautifully said, all the evil things that happen on the earth, they are not because of the violence of the bad people. They are because of the silence of the good people. It's a very profound thing Napoleon said. And that is what Krishna is saying here. He's saying, Arjuna, you cannot think that not doing something will somehow give you liberation. You are trying to run away. You are saying, why should I fight? You think no action means no reaction. You think no action means no bad karma. He's saying it doesn't work that way. See how profound this message is. You did nothing, but still things happen. Just like that. That is karma. So it's very practical. Krishna is just saying you cannot escape karma by refusing to act. In fact, refusing to act is also bad karma. That is why whenever somebody comes to me for guidance, I will always first, make it very clear that they understand what is their rightful action. Like I've had some very close friends, like for example, somebody needs a job, like they're not getting a good job. And they are like, Guruji, can you pray? Can you bless? Can you this? And they are like, I have this mantra, I have this shloka, I'm reciting it every day. I'm like, all that is fine, but have you actually gone out and submitted your resume to the right places? Are you preparing for an interview? Are you networking? Oh, you're not doing any of that. And you are getting frustrated that you're not getting results, Because you not doing that is definitely causing negative reaction for you, isn't it? It's a very logical thing I'm telling you, simple to understand. Okay, Shalmali ji is a karmi. She really wants action now. Yes, Shalmali ji.
Guruji, actually, I want to ask, like you said that, you have to take action. If you do not take the action, then it is like the karma, like you are making like bad karma. So, but Guruji, if you will talk, then the relationship will broke, na? That other person will say, "Oh, she is always telling me," but
नहीं
that
नहीं नहीं
person
नहीं
don't want to listen.
ऐसा
Then
नहीं ऐसा नहीं ऐसा नहीं ऐसा नहीं see the answer is in your question only. That person doesn't want to listen is not your problem, na? When you act, you should act karmanya vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So you are doing rightful action is the word. It is not just action. So it is not that you want to keep taunting somebody. That is not action we are talking about. What we are saying is, what is a rightful action? Do you have the right facts? Do you have the right data? Do you have the right advice to give? And yet you are choosing not to do it. That is the problem. Okay? It is not just noise we are talking about here. Okay. And second, they are not listening. That means you already have an attachment to outcomes when you are saying something. See, that is, Krishna has clearly said, that doesn't take you anywhere. So do because it is the right thing to do it in the right way, do it with humility, without ego, and then detach. If they don't listen, that is their karma. But if you don't say, that is your karma. Okay, I'm glad that it made. See, that is what we are saying. In 2.47 is a very famous sloka, right? And people usually read only the first half of that sloka. People only read where Krishna says karmanye vadikaraste, where they will always say you have a right to action, not to fruits. People stop there. They don't look at the second part of the sloka at all. Where the second part of the sloka says, Na sangotsava karmane, where Krishna says, but do not be attached to inaction. That part is usually ignored. That is equally powerful, equally strong. You cannot be attached to inaction. Okay, I don't feel like working without expectations, so I will just not work. This is the escape route many people take. How can I sow a seed and not expect it to sprout? Okay, then I will not sow a seed at all. And Krishna says, no, Buno, please go read my sloka completely. So do not try to find an escape, because trying to find an escape is always counterproductive, is negative karma. And just because you have your fears, don't call your fear as renunciation. Don't call your laziness as detachment. All this mind, creates all these excuses. So Krishna is reminding us the real wisdom, what it looks like. In second chapter, he spoke about the steady ones, Sthita Pragya. He said people who are not shaken by sorrow, people who are not addicted to pleasure. And he spoke about how you have to be free from raga, dvesha, bhaya, krodha. But when will you know that you are not a slave to attachments? When will you know that you are gaining mastery over krodha, anger? When will you know that? If there is not a single soul around you who can annoy you, who can irritate you, how would you ever know whether you are overcoming? So anybody who annoys you, bless them, because they are doing you a favor. They are helping you test yourself. They are helping you test your own growth. Spiritual path is not about escaping discomfort. spiritual path is about transforming our discomfort into tools of learning and evolution. That is the beauty of Krishna's teachings throughout. So Krishna will say that when you know clearly, that is jnana. When you act rightfully, that is karma. When you learn how to offer the results, that is tyaga. And when you know how to stay steady, that is sthita pragya. Very simple. Simple terms, simple words. So with this understanding, now we can see how Krishna goes on to close all the escape routes, and that is 3.4 to 3.6. So right now we have covered Arjuna's question, which was 3.1, 3.2, and we have covered Krishna's initial response, which was 3.3. And then we can go through 3.4 to 3.6, where Arjuna feels the problem Arjuna has. Why is Arjuna trying to bargain? See, he's no bargaining. He's saying, okay, if not this, can I do this? If not that, can you give me one taviz? Can you give me one magic mantra? He's bargaining. But why? Because his inner mental model tells him that if you fight, you will incur sin. If you don't fight, Krishna says you will still have bad karma. I feel stuck. So that is his internal mental model, which is kind of causing him so much confusion. So he wants the third option, which is an escape. He's saying if knowledge is higher, then let me just not do action. If detachment is great, then let me just stop caring. If renunciation is so good, let me just leave everything and go. See, that is what is happening. This is what we studied so far. We should not do. But Krishna is not shouting at him. Krishna is not judging him. Krishna is not shaming him. He is doing something more powerful. He is patiently removing that oil from the lens. He is patiently cleaning that lens of Arjuna. He is patiently helping Arjuna clear his delusions and illusions that is covering his buddhi. So 3.4 to 3.6, those slokas, if you see, they are not randomly put together. They follow a very clean order. So they are like a staircase, one list to another, list to another. That order is very important. So because in 3.4, Krishna says that you will not attain Naishkarmya. Naishkarmya means freedom from the bondage created by karma. He's saying you cannot attain that just by abstaining from action. Very clear. Pause. Because many people, they misunderstand this. Krishna is not saying renunciation mein koi dam nahi hai. Krishna is not saying there is no value in renunciation. Krishna is telling how to do renunciation. He's explaining what is the right way to do renunciation. The word Naishkarmya is very subtle because it is pointing to a state where karma no longer binds. It is not a state where there is no karma happening. But Naishkarmya is a state where you are performing karma, but that is not creating any bondage for you. That is what Krishna is teaching. That is the goal. Bondage is not created by action. That is what Krishna is saying. He's saying bondage is created by your mindset while you perform that action. So, what kind of mindset? I am the doer. I am the controller. This has to go my way. I deserve that kind of outcome. If you catch yourself having any of those things, even before you create or even before you kind of put in even 20% of your efforts, you are like, now I deserve a promotion. All these words, I deserve, I'm entitled, all of that is a problem. And what Krishna says is that with this kind of a mindset, even if you do something that you think is holy or pious, that is still creating bondage for you. Isn't it very empowering, very powerful? And Krishna then says, you need to understand the difference between detachment and disconnection. So, like for example, a common real life example. This happens in most homes today. What happens is, many times, because today is a very competitive world, it's kind of difficult. It's a hard life most people have. So parents, especially parents of young kids, many times they feel very overwhelmed. They sometimes feel tired. No fault of them, theirs. But the problem is their misunderstanding. They will say that, no, I need to practice some detachment. But what is their idea of detachment? They start to emotionally withdraw. They just stop listening. They stop engaging. They stop getting involved. And they will say that they are practicing detachment. But what are they actually doing? They think they are practicing detachment, but what they are actually doing is they are practicing disconnection. And how does the child perceive it? The child is perceiving it as abandonment. किसी का फायदा हुआ क्या? Is anybody benefiting here? That is why Krishna's teachings are so powerful, because it applies to everyday life for all of us. Detachment, Krishna says, is purification, not rejection. And then in 3.5, the next level, Krishna is saying, you cannot freeze life. Like you cannot expect life to just stop. Because Krishna is saying, no one can remain without action even for a moment. He's saying, even if it was a possibility, Arjuna. Because Arjuna says, I will not act. Arjuna thinks no action means no reaction. So Krishna already proved that no action is not equal to no reaction. He now goes on to say that it is not even possible to be in a state where there is no action. Krishna says, if you are not doing something consciously, you will be acting unconsciously. If you are not choosing dharma deliberately, you are going to follow habits automatically. If you are not moving upward, then automatically you will slide downward. So Krishna is talking about how Prakriti works. And he is talking about how everything is driven by gunas. We already discussed it in the earlier batch, but soon Krishna will talk in detail about all the gunas, how they will drive you one way or the other. It's like we said the other day, like you have a beautiful Ferrari or maybe a Mercedes, but you are afraid that if I take it out, it will get scratched, it will get spoiled. So you just park it in your garage, and for 5 years you are not even touching it. Do you think your car is going to remain beautiful? And some of the guys are already nodding their head because they know cars better, na? So your car is going to still get rotten. It's going to get rusted. Correct? So this whole concept of no action is a fallacy, because Krishna says some action is always happening, whether you are aware of it or not. So he's saying, stop fantasizing about this no action thing. Stop fantasizing about this escaping actions. He says, all you need to do is always choose to do the right kind of action. For example, a student needs to fill in application. I know many students who hate filling forms and filling applications, they think it's a total waste of time. Kahan is smiling. Kahan knows what I'm talking about. So, students, they really hate this kind of filling applications. Maybe it is an application for an exam or a health checkup or whatever. And then they very smartly use this. When the parent comes and scolds them, why are you not doing it? They will say, oh, if it has to happen, it will happen. If Krishna wants, it will happen. It's Krishna. It's all Krishna's will. So smart, right? So clever. But deep down, what is going on? Sometimes it is just lethargy, which is caused by tamas, tamoguna. Maybe they are not getting good sleep. They are not eating the right kind of food. They are not having the right kind of habits. So they are full of that tamas. When they are under that tamas, they just don't feel like doing anything. Nothing productive happens. And then they will blame it on these false notions of God, and God will take care, and unki marji, So we need to be aware of that. But also, the other subtle thing is sometimes people avoid doing something because of fear of failure, or fear of rejection. That is also tamoguna. So this is all like real life examples and real life situations that we should all introspect on, and then we should say, okay, now if I understood Krishna's teachings, how should I change? What should I do differently? That is why we are talking about all of this. So based on Krishna's teachings, if I have to fill a form, it is my job, my duty to fill it in a timely manner. If I have to study for an exam, that's my job. Let me do my best. But after doing all of this, don't spend the summer vacation in anxiety, saying, am I going to fail or am I going to pass? I mean, your anxiety is not going to impact your result in any way. You have done what you had to do. Now it is up to the teacher. They will do what they want to do, right? That is Krishna's teaching, basically. And then 3.6, the last sloka for today, if some of you are looking at your watch. Now, here Krishna, he says that if someone This another very important thing. It applies to modern day spiritualists. Krishna says that the real impurity is not desire. Does it all sound interesting now suddenly? Because we all thought that desires are not good. And now Krishna is saying the real impurity is not actually desire. Now suddenly everybody is in a hurry. They are like, okay, now I will start desiring. so, so Krishna says the real impurity is not desire, he says, but it is falsehood. If somebody is just externally controlling themselves, but internally their mind is burning, Krishna says they are Mityacharis. That is the word Krishna uses, Mithyachari. It may sound very harsh, but Krishna is trying to protect us from false spiritual growth. He is also trying to protect us from slow spiritual death. Because the fact is, desire is human. No human can be 100% free of desires. It's not possible. Even the greatest of saints and sages, they also have desires passing through them. The difference is how do they handle it. We cannot avoid desires, but we can transform desires and we can purify desires. That is the whole teaching. But what he's talking about here is the most dangerous trap is pretending that we have no desire. That is hypocrisy, that is Mithyachari. Because if you are a Mithyachari that way, if you pretend, then there is no way you are going to fix the real problem. There is no way you are going to grow. In daily lives, we have to now internalize that spirituality is not about appearance. It is not that you appear to be a pure person. It is not that you appear to be a very holy person. That's not the point. Be who you are. It's okay. What is more important is, do you have the honesty? Are you genuine? And I think some of you were with us in the Bhakti Sutra and we studied the same thing there, where Lord Rama also says the same thing. He says, no deception. I like people who don't have any kind of such deception or falsehood. I like people who are genuine. Swami Mukundananda, some of you know Swami Mukundananda, and he quotes a story from the Puranas too. So maybe I thought that story is interesting. It's a short story, so I'll bring it here. So there are two brothers, Tavrit and Suvrit, and they are walking from their house. They want to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is happening in the temple. And on the way, it is beginning to rain very heavily, so they are running for shelter. And so whatever the first available shelter they found, they just go inside. Unfortunately, after entering and after sitting down, they realize that they have actually landed up in a brothel. And all these women are dancing and trying to tempt everybody and all of that. So the Tavrit, the elder brother, he felt very like, what the hell? Like, where did I land up? He's frustrated. So he walks out into the rain and he says, I'm not staying here. So he walks out and he continues to walk to the temple in that rain getting wet. Whereas the younger brother, Suvrit, he thought, what is the harm in just sitting here? I'm not doing anything wrong. So what's the big deal? So I don't want to get wet. So maybe I will continue to sit. So see the mindset, the swabhava, the difference. The older brother felt disgusted. So he just gets out and he says, I would rather get wet. And he goes to the temple. The younger brother says, I don't see any harm. Like, let me just sit. Now Tavrit reaches the temple. And now he is sitting in the discourse. But guess what's going on in his mind? So externally, he is now a saintly person because he dared to get wet and his priority was the temple, his priority was the Bhagavatam. So he's sitting there. But what is going on inside? Inside, his mind is remorseful. His mind is saying, how boring this is. I think I made a mistake. I should have stayed there. No, my brother must be enjoying. My brother must be having a good time. And here I am stuck with this Acharya giving this boring lecture. Now look at what Suvrit is doing now, the younger brother who is sitting in the brothel. Now he is thinking, did I make a mistake? Should I have stayed in this house of sin? My brother seems to have more holiness in him. He went to the temple. Now he must be listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam. He is so fortunate. Maybe I should have done the same thing. Maybe I should have also been listening to the Bhagavatam. Now, when the rain stopped, they are both starting out. They're trying to meet each other. And the moment they meet, a lightning strikes them. And they both died on the spot. And then Yamadut comes. And Yamadut comes and he is now saying, Tavrit, I am here to take you to hell. And then Tavrit is revolting. He's complaining. He's saying, I think you made a mistake, sir. I am Tavrit. I'm the guy who went to the temple and sat for the Bhagavatam. It is my brother who was sitting in the brothel. I think you are mistaking him for me. The Yamadut says, good try, my boy. We don't make mistakes. He says, we never make mistakes. He says, see, he was sitting in the brothel, but he was thinking about the Bhagavatam, whereas you were sitting in the temple, but you were thinking about the brothel. He said, that is what is important. So, the guy sitting in the temple goes to hell, and the guy sitting in the brothel, he actually lands up in heaven. This may all seem like a fairy tale, but that is very relevant for us in our day-to-day lives. Krishna is teaching us how to live. He's saying live with some kind of integrity. Be genuine. That is more important than putting up a show of being holy or being advanced. He says that is all Mithyachari. So I hope all this makes sense, and this is where we learned and we will continue to learn that physically just restraining ourselves is not the goal. That is the first step. The first step is physically restrain. But then the ultimate goal is the internal thing. You need to make sure that you don't have any craving. Does anybody remember the word we used for craving? That kind of craving in the mind? Okay, I heard one answer. Okay, Chitraji wants to try, or Manojji wants to try. Okay, Manojji.
Is it lust?
Lust is, yes, lust is kind of
For anything.
selfish love is lust. You are right. Now, we are talking about the internal in the mind. So, externally, let us say somebody says, don't drink alcohol, it is tamasic. So, I throw away all my alcohol bottles and I stop going to pubs or bars or anything. Now, but then my mind is craving for that. So, Chitraji, yes?
It's Krishna.
Yay, yes. Applause, applause. Excellent. That is Trishna, where we said that our ultimate goal is to weaken that and eventually eliminate that kind of Trishna. And to do that is where Krishna taught us the method of substitution. The whole Bhakti Marga that is where the substitution method comes in. We cannot stop. It's a continuous process. You have a bad thought, substitute with a good thought. You have something this, substitute with that, so on and so forth. And this is pretty much what is supported by Patanjali also in the Yoga Sutras, where he says, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the mastery of the fluctuation of the mind. That is the real yoga. The other yoga are all helpful, but the real yoga, even Patanjali, the founder of Ashtanga Yoga himself says, the real yoga is an inside job. So then I will share some takeaways, I will share some notes. Before we move on, please just pause for a minute and try to yourself introspect any area in your life where your outer life looks better than your inner life. Gaur Gopal Das very beautifully, jokingly says, a person's life is never as good as their Facebook photo, and it is also never as bad as their Aadhaar photo. So we need to introspect. Are we doing this somewhere where we're putting on a show but something else is going on inside? Then let us figure out how to change it. And name that one attachment or one fear that you feel so hard to let go. That is for you. You need to do all these exercises, because that is our goal is not just to be a scholar in Bhagavad Gita. Our goal is to transform and evolve. So for that, these kind of honest introspection and small exercises, they're very, very important. Write it down. I know very good people, beautiful people, lovely people, who are suffering in their life because they have some fears and some attachments they are just not able to deal with. And so it's very important that we introspect, take a note of it, and then choose any one negative thought pattern that you are able to deal with by substitution. Are you doing it? Are you able to do it? And is it getting easier with practice? This is all for you. And there is no shame in acknowledging our weaknesses. There is no shame in the real shame is trying to pretend that we are not what we are. Somebody very beautifully said, it is better to be hated for what I am than to be loved for what I am not. I strongly support that view. So with that, I will stop talking. Hare Krishna, the floor is open. Let the Arjuna in you wake up. Let me know if anyone has any comments, questions, and then we'll go from there. Yes, Manojji?
It's more of a comment because I just came across this today, that the whole gist of the thing was that it's only foolish people who are overconfident and who think they know everything, and the intelligent people always doubt and question.
Yes.
And I think that is what Arjun is doing, because when we are content with everything, we have our own narrow frame of mind. But the idea is not to be content and keep questioning.
Very right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing it. Yes, that's a very beautiful. I know I've read it too, and I found it very interesting. They say that the fearless people are the people who either know nothing or they know everything. Everybody in the middle, they are always having some fear or some confusion. Yes. Yes. Kahanji, is it making sense to you, all these teachings? He's one of our youngest members. I'm very impressed that at this age, he's still trying to be regular. We had one more young
Yes,
member, Ekansh, but he keeps disappearing.
I would like to ask something.
Yes, Kahanji.
How can we identify if we have the necessary knowledge to perform a rightful action?
Your voice is breaking. If we have the right knowledge to what?
To perform the rightful action.
Oh, excellent question. Excellent question. That is what the Bhagavad Gita is all about. That is the guidance given in Bhagavad Gita. First of all, the most fundamental thing is you need to understand what is your sabhava, what is your inner nature. Once you understand what is your inner nature, you need to map it to your swadharma. What is your swadharma means what is dharma for you. And then anything which is aligned with that swadharma will be rightful action for you. So there is no one list of what is right action, what is wrong action, because my list of right action may be wrong for you. And your list of right actions may be wrong for me. So, for example, the very common, very popular example, if you are a soldier, pick up the gun. And if somebody is invading your country, go shoot. That is right action for you. But if you are a preacher or a teacher or a doctor, please don't touch the gun. Because your dharma is to heal. Your dharma is not to shoot. It doesn't matter if it's enemy or if your countryman. Your dharma of a doctor is whoever is coming in front to be healed needs to be healed. You see? So that is why Krishna very categorically says the first step is understanding your swabhava, and once you understand your swabhava, get an understanding of what your swadharma. See, this was the whole reason for what that whole thing got corrupted into a caste system. But this was the whole idea, where people were automatically aligned with their swabhava, so everybody automatically knew what is their rightful action, and that way it was easier for everybody to do what is right. That was the whole purpose, which has got all corrupted today. Hope that at least gives you some insights, Kahanji, and also Krishna will go on to say, like, karmanyavadikaraste. Once you know what is the right action, then the next question is, right action, how do I do in the right way? So there it is like do without attachment, do without sense of entitlement, do just because it is the right thing to do, and so on and so forth. But for all of this, your mind has to be purified, your intellect has to be purified. Only then you can even ask this question and you can follow the answers. So how do you do that? How do you purify your mind, your intellect? That is where the all of Bhagavad Gita is. Where Krishna will talk about the virtues, he will talk about gunas, he will talk about, dhyana and bhakti and all of that. So it's a complete package. So by the time you complete chapter 18, I'm sure you will have all the right answers, Kahanji. So stay with us. Okay then, Hare Krishna. See you all in the next session where we continue with our journey through Karma Yoga. A lot of powerful lessons are going to follow now. So stay with us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.